Oathsworn, the game of a lifetime. Now, I thought long and hard about this title, and I do not say those words lightly, but frick, this game is so good. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Wolfpack. Now after many requests, we are finally doing it. We are covering Oathsworn today. Everyone's been asking about it ever since I released my top 5 Gen Con video review. So today, we're finally diving into this amazing campaign game that I have finally found that has checked every single freaking box that I can find, and something that I'm so invested in. Now, if you're interested in Oathsworn at all, go ahead and check the links down below. I think by the time this video is released, they're having a campaign for Oathsworn. So if you're even remotely interested in this game and you don't want to miss it, definitely look at the link down below. This is not a sponsored video, but I was given this game to review, so take what you will. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this game and then we'll dive straight into my thoughts as per usual. Also, quick note, I am only showing you B-roll from the very first chapter, and there are like over 20 chapters of this game. So just so you know, there are gonna be minor spoilers just so I can show you what the game looks like. Now, Oathsworn is a 1 to 4 player co-op campaign. And before you leave from hearing co-op and just like, and campaign, like, oh my God, I don't wanna do that. No, stick around because this game is going to change your mind. You need to experience something like this. You are playing in an epic dark fantasy world that has been consumed by the Deepwood. There are 2 parts of this game. The first is this crazy immersive story where you use a storybook and changing maps. There are mystery envelopes and packages that build out this really grand world. You'll be interacting with a ton of different NPCs, gaining allies, breaking alliances, trading, selling weapons and items, and there is just so much more. You also have 12 asymmetric characters to choose from. Each of them have a range of complexities and abilities, their own unique minis that can swap out different weapons. You unlock more of their abilities as you progress in each chapter as well. And there's also this companion app that is amazing and leads you through the campaign with a voiceover. However, if apps aren't for you, you can still play this game classically by just reading through the storybook, or you can also do both. As you're playing through the story, you'll be making really interesting and impactful decisions as you choose to interact and explore and pursue and have this variety of checks that just keep the campaign constantly interesting. Now, with each location that you go to, there's gonna be this unique timeline, and it's going to activate different effects once you reach that part of the pathway. Now, you'll be moving around with a party of 4 players, even if you're playing solo, and as you go from each slot, you'll take that marker and then put it onto the timeline. Now, once you do that and you finish the story mode, the game's gonna switch on over to the best part for me, which is the encounter mode. This is where combat happens. This is where all the excitement happens in the game. Story's amazing. I love it, but you know, the encounters, the fights are just next level. Now, in these encounters, you are flat out set up to fight. It is you and your team against a boss and oftentimes their minions. When you fight, there's a very streamlined but intricate system in play. You're gonna spend these resources called animus, and it's gonna allow you to move and play ability cards. Positioning is super important because you attack the minions, there's line of sight going on, and you can also attack different sides of the boss, which triggers different effects. The boss too is super dynamic. There are stage cards that are randomized for the first level, and you keep attacking it and it gets crazier and crazier, transitioning into stage 2, and 2 times, 3 times, I don't know, a billion times scarier as it gets into stage 3. Now, the last time I talked about Oathsworn, I was raving about the combat mechanics, and it still holds up even after multiple plays. So in combat, you're going to be either rolling dice or drawing cards. And you can roll or draw as many number of cards as you want. You can also combine them, so you can also roll 2 dice and then draw 2 cards. The trade-off here is that if you roll 2 blanks or if you draw 2 blanks, then your entire attack is negated. What's also really cool, like Arcadia Quest, if you roll this specific symbol, which is a crit, you can also roll again, and even if it's a blank, it's negated, so it won't count towards like your 2 blank limit, but instead it'll give you another option to keep on dealing damage. Now, from the story mode, you'll gain different tokens that can be very useful in combat. Like for instance, Empowered ×3 lets you power up your draws. Normally you start with the white ones, which are the weakest ones, but you can power this up using Empowered, and then you can draw a black one instead. These are super strong. So pretty much once you finish and pass this immersive story, you switch on over to the encounter mode, fight the boss. If you win, that is it for that chapter. And to save, you just put your ability cards back into the black bags, and that's it until your next campaign. You can also, which is a really cool option, is that there are these instant actions where you can go straight into the encounter and kind of skip the story if the story isn't for you. But I highly, highly recommend that you go through the story first and then the encounter. It just makes the encounter so much better. Okay, everyone, if you are enjoying the video so far, then please hit subscribe and join the ever-growing Wolf Pack. Now, with the story for this game, the narrative, the campaign is just flat out unreal. As someone who majored in literature, I've like doubly appreciated how good and rich the narrative is. Let me go ahead and give you a snippet.
Green mud sucks at your boots, every stride a challenge as you trudge through the rain. Your hands grip the thick iron cable of the wire road, pulled taut through rings, sunken into the trunks of hideous trees. For days now, it has been the only evidence of humanity's existence in the deep wood.
You see that? You hear that? I am so glued to every single page of this campaign, following through all the really interesting decisions in the narrative. And it's just such a rich, compelling story that I'm really invested in. I've been on the edge of my seat, just like dying to find out what's next. And it's consistently done that. But I have played this solo and with 2 players. I would love to play this at the 4-player account. If you want to see a gameplay of Oathsworn, let me know in the comments below. Now, what's also cool is that in solo mode, you do play as 4 characters, but the game is really flexible in that you can completely control 1 full character and make the other 3 companions, which are like assistants to you. So that way everyone is easier to manage. You could also control 4 full-fledged characters for advanced players. That's one like overarching theme about Oathsworn, is that it's really flexible and it caters to a lot of different playstyles. It goes to people that just want to experience a light version of the game, all the way to medium, to heavy, full-on complexity. It has a bunch of different difficulty levels. And speaking of flexibility too, what's also nice is that I like how the app is purely supplemental. And the voiceover, I highly recommend you follow along with the voiceover because it makes traversing the campaign a lot easier. But one thing I did wish that the app did was that when you're going from the story mode to the encounter mode, I think it would have been nice, especially for someone who's playing the game for the first time, if there was a leaded or guided tutorial, kind of like how Descent does it in that campaign game. But here they offer more so just links to videos for you to learn it. And I feel like because you're going from this really big high, like you're enjoying the story, there was this gap for me when I first learned this game, from when I experience the campaign and then I get into the encounter, but then have to, dive through another 10, 15, 20 pages of rulebook to figure out, how to play the encounter. And I wish that instead of it plateauing from transitioning from here to here, instead of just it flatlining for me to learn all the rules and spend more time figuring things out, that it kind of just kept the high that it was going at. And one way it could have done that was with the app. If the app just showed you, hey, here's what this component looks like, place this here, here's how battle works, and you're good to go. That aspect of the app is something that I would love to see in the future. It would easily help break down the barriers for people that are trying to learn this game as well. Overall though, I feel like that's pretty minor because the rulebooks are very, very well written. Thank goodness, because this is a lot of game. There is a lot of things to pay attention to, but it's pretty straightforward and I feel like it gets you up and running pretty quickly despite that little lag time transitioning from the story to the encounter. Here's the bottom line. Overall, the story mode is something that you have to experience. It's just so immersive, rich, and deeply, deeply immersive. On top of that, I really love how the game respects your time. It doesn't just lead you to do nothing. There are no fillers. With every decision, I feel like it's super impactful because if you lose out on some things, then you might lose health, you might lose money, and there are decisions that really affect you and how you get to the end of the narrative. On top of that, if you choose right and your checks that you do throughout your rolling dice and rolling cards when you're traversing this map, those decisions really help a lot when it comes to gaining permanent tokens that you can use in combat. So I love that part about the campaign, in that it respects your time. Regardless of what path that you choose, you will gain negative or positive effects that ultimately affect your encounter by the end. So they tie in together well and everything is just very streamlined. Okay, now let's go ahead and switch on over to the encounter mode. Now in the encounter mode, there is this phase called the Oathsworn phase. And what's really unique about it is that every player is going to keep on taking turns. What dictates you not being able to go anymore is when you switch on over your anima from the reserve pool to the used pool. Once you run out of anima, then you can't perform any more actions. And on your turn, you're going to be moving and or playing an ability card. That's it. So Oathsworn keeps that baseline simple, but there's a ton of complexity going on after that, because when you are playing ability cards, they go into different slots along your board and they have different cooldowns. And then there's this battle flow system where once you play a card, it'll move around in a circle and then eventually they'll go back up to your hand. So you have to think about cooldown management. You also have to think about each one having unique abilities. Each character has their own unique abilities that come into play. There is line of sight. There is different parts of the boss that you can attack, like from the rear, the back end, and all those matter because it affects how the boss is going to attack you as well. The boss also has several stages. You have stage 1, which is randomized, stage 2 randomized, and stage 3 also randomized. So every time you encounter the boss, it's gonna be different every single time. Bosses will oftentimes have minions, and that's great for a group dynamic because then everyone has a different role. Some people are going to heal, some people are going to attack and AoE the minions, some people are gonna go straight for the boss. Some people are gonna get bashed against the terrain. There is so much incredible combat gameplay, and I love it so much. Another important note I wanted to mention, but in the Oathsworn phase, when all players are taking turns, it's quick and it's back to back, and I love the pacing for it because you just keep going, moving and attacking, moving and attacking. For instance, you have the option of using one character's ability and then everyone passes and then that character uses that ability again. So having those options before the boss moves is incredible. You can also dual wield weapons as the exile. You can play different bows and crossbows as the ranger. And there's just so much going on. There's a lot going on, but it's a great thing because it makes combat very dynamic, very, very fast, and super fun to play. Like, I love combat about this game. Bottom line, combat is gonna make you wanna keep playing again and again. And I also thought that with the dice and the card system, with how they have crits and how you can choose as many cards or as many dice as you want, or a combination of both, I thought that might have gotten stale, but I look forward to that point every single time because this push your luck system is very, very addicting, and it's held up with every play so far. Okay, now after all of this, after the entire story and the entire encounter, the biggest worry that I have for campaign games like this is, well, how do I save or how do I reset? Because in video games, it's super easy, right? Just return to last save point. But in board games, it is a whole nother ordeal. When you die, you have to reset. But here, thankfully, it's really easy. When you die, it's a quick reset. You just put all the characters back into position and then you have your ability cards, draw them back up, and that's it. If you were to save the game after you finish a chapter and you want to do the next chapter on your next gameplay session, you just take the ability cards and put it in a black bag and you're done. And I love how streamlined that is. Compared to other dungeon crawlers like, what's the name? Bloodborne, right? So Bloodborne was a huge mess to reset. You have to reset the entire map and put all the pieces together and all the items together. And it was just very, very daunting when you die. It didn't make you want to play again because the setup was too much and to backtrack everything and put cards in order again. Versus everything in here is really simple and you can reset in less than 3 minutes. Okay, here are the last 2 things I want to mention about Oathsworn. So one of the things I didn't really like about Oathsworn, but I get why they did this, and it's gonna make sense in a second, but one thing I wasn't a big fan of was the leveling system. So when you level in this game, it just reflects depending on the chapter that you're in. So if I'm chapter 1, then everyone's level 1. If you're chapter 2, then level 2, and so on. And as you gain levels, you'll gain certain items or attributes to add to your character. So essentially every character is flatlined going into each chapter fresh. And that makes sense. And I get why they did that because it makes swapping out characters very easy. Because unlike in Jaws of the Lion, you're committed to one character because you stuck with that one, and it's very hard to switch to another character because then you have to reset everything. Here, because everyone starts off with the same level and it's easy to reset by just putting cards in a bag, it's easy to swap out different characters and play as one of the 12. So I get why they did that leveling system because it's easy to save, it's easy to reset, and it's also easy to follow characters because everyone ultimately, thematically, is traveling as one party. So as one party, you're doing everything together, and it does make sense why the experience is shared across the group equally. However, I would have loved to see dynamic leveling because like in video games, right? When we're adventuring off into our own worlds, we're all at different levels and we're all experiencing, different things. And by the end game, it's just really cool to see everyone have this progression system and be super geared out by the very end. So I think flatlining every character and having every character, enter each chapter with a set amount of things makes it a little bit, like it takes away a little bit of the fun, because I feel like by chapter 21 or the final chapter, by that final chapter, I would have loved to feel like I've progressed. And you do feel like you're getting stronger, but I just wish that there was a little bit more dynamicism to that, especially when you are adventuring together. It just would have been cool if like my ranger's level 2 and my warbear is level 3, and they have different attributes that they gained as they venture off a little bit off away from each other. But again, it's a co-op. I get why they did it, but leveling could have been a little bit more interesting. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below what you think about how leveling works in this game. And the final thing I wanted to mention, something that I've been raving about forever now, but I just want to mention it one last time because it really has held up and it really gets excitement around the table, and that is this push your luck combat system. So being able to choose how many dice you want to roll or how many cards you want to draw, and a combination of both, and rolling crits and getting those to combo off other numbers and other dice. That is just such an incredible and rewarding and addicting feeling. This is what generates the excitement around the table, and I cannot wait to see how that plays out in a 4-player game, because it's just going to be wild to play it out with that many players and seeing the amount of tension and the buildup that push your luck system is going to create in a group dynamic. Now, with that said, I don't normally do this, but I do want to compare this game to other campaign games because I feel like I've been raving about this one a lot, but I want to tell you reasons why. And the reason why I think Oathsworn is the best campaign game that I've ever played thus far is because it really does fix a lot of the things that brought other campaign games down for me, or reasons why I don't invest my time into other campaign games as much as I want to invest my time in this one. So like in comparison, let's say for Descent, right? Descent, really fun game too. I enjoyed it a lot, but I think with combat happening digitally, it takes away from the physicality of the dice and the cards here. And I think just the push your luck system is way more fun and exciting for Oathsworn in comparison to like Bloodborne. That one, resetting was a mess and it just wasn't as interesting either. It was just so hard to backtrack and to reset up everything versus here, again, easy save, very streamlined resetting system. In Arcade Quest, I love how it took the crit system there, where if you roll dice, you keep rolling dice again if you roll those crits. But here, I love how it negates the use of any blanks, so it helps mitigate the negative consequences, and it also gives you the option of combining dice and cards. I love that, how it amplified that system here. And then also, let's say in Jaws of the Lion, that one also really fun, but again, I wasn't like really fun, great for the value. It's like $40 game and you get a ton of content for it, but I just feel like I wasn't as invested into it because I couldn't experience all the characters there, because once you play as one, then you're committed to that one character in Jaws. Versus here, you can play with 12 different characters and experience a whole ton of asymmetry with them, and it's really easy to swap out. Also, unlike Tainted Grail, there are no fillers. Every decision has felt impactful, and you're not walking across the bridge for no reason. You're not visiting empty houses like you are in Tainted Grail for just for giggles. Oathsworn, respect your time. That's why to me, Oathsworn is my favorite campaign so far, and I am so invested in this. I want to finish this game, so let me know if you want to see an updated review once I finish all 21 chapters of Oathsworn as well. Overall, this game checks so many boxes and it addresses a lot of the issues that I had in previous campaign games. And with that, I am giving Oathsworn a final rating of a 5 out of 5, a perfect score, and here's why. First question, is it replayable? Are you kidding me? Do you not see this entire set of content? Yes, it's replayable across the board, regardless of how you look at it. You got 20 plus chapters. Each encounter and story is truly unique. You have over 12 characters, a slew of combinations to make your characters companions or full-fledged characters, a whole range of abilities to unlock. There is this ridiculously addicting push your luck combat system. Yes, 5 out of 5, no question about that. Now, play interaction. I always say and hark about how I'm not a big fan of co-ops. But if you can get a table of 4 strangers playing this game in 15 minutes and invested in the fight, which is what happened with me at Gen Con. The fact that this game can make a bond between 4 strangers in 15 minutes and get you invested and thrilled to play speaks for itself. After spending so many hours with it now, I can only vouch for the incredible play interaction, and this game would be super fun to do some cinematic gameplay on. Now, the theme being a dark fantasy is present throughout the artwork and the story and the decisions. If you want fantasy, which is honestly my personal favorite theme, you'll get all of it here. The mechanics are wild. There's so much flexibility in all the player types that this game caters to because you can choose your difficulty levels, and there are a ton of ways to mitigate negative events. The fights are incredible. The battle flow system is amazing. And this game really nails every mechanic that it presents to players. And lastly, production value. I mean, come on. The visuals explain themselves, right? So bottom line, look, if you're looking for a crazy good story, if you're looking for a very rich narrative, something that's going to immerse you into this very dark world full of rich fantasy, if you are looking for a game with asymmetric characters, 12 of them, in fact, and something that is going to bring so much different complexity and dynamicism to gameplay, if you're looking for epic combat and epic boss fights, then look no further than this campaign game, because Oathsworn delivers on every single front and I have not been disappointed at all. I'm so excited actually to play this right after because I really want to get to chapter 21 and see how all these mysteries unfold, because I love that mystery building aspect too, with all the mystery envelopes and the boxes and everything too. So anyways, with that said, thank you all so much for joining me on today's review of Oathsworn. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Is this something that you're thinking about backing? What's holding you back? What's your favorite part about Oathsworn? What's your least favorite part? I want to know all of it down in the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. This rat, even if it's called like the mother rat and supposed to be like the crazy ginormous boss in game, in real life, it's an actual like life-size of a rat. Life-size version of a rat. Like, look how big it is. It's freaking huge. 5 out of 5. This game is wild. Don't be surprised to see this game on my top 10 games of all time list. It'll be there.